Once again, welcome to Slide Identification Liver Pathology with me. My name is Aprajya Shankar. I am a fourth year medical student um, at MU Pleven. I am going to try to teach as much of liver pathology in terms of the pathoanatomy slides that you have. In the exam, we'll be given, I think, 4 slides. And so each slide comes from a separate part of pathoanatomy. And they're very important because once you identify the slides, you'll be asked questions on those slides. And only after you pass the practical bit will you be going to theoretical. Now, when I spoke to a lot of my friends who are all in like fifth year and sixth year and so on and so forth, they all said the same thing that if your practical scores are good, then the professors look upon a little more favorably on your pathology theoretical exam. So, with that said, um, I have a very basic way of teaching, right? I always believe that the only way you can actually learn pathology is by doing comparisons. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to first teach you a little bit of liver pathology, and then you can look into you know the actual like liver histology first, and then you look into liver pathology. You see, the problem here is that a lot of times when you look at a slide, you get confused as to what organ this is. And because we have almost say 60 or 70 slides, maybe even 100, it is not always possible to just memorize all the slides. Plus, each time you look at a slide, right, um, there are many variations of the same slide, even in the uni, right? Because obviously they need to take specimens from various different organs, and because of which you have a lot of difference in how each slide looks even after preparation, right? So in order to combat this confusion, what I'm going to do is to try to first explain what the normal liver histology looks like under the microscope. After that, you can move onwards to pathology, and even then I'll be teaching you something called the slide identification algorithm that I use. um, it's like a stepwise process for identifying slides. So for example, I don't memorize slides at all. Even for histology I didn't do it. Even for microanatomy I have not done it, because if you try to memorize slides, what happens is that even if there's a slight difference, or there is some kind of anatomical variation in the slide that you get, you'll get very confused during the exam. So I want to avoid that by giving you the appropriate tools to be able to identify slides first, right? So let's get into liver pathology. So these are all the slides with liver pathology right now. There are 7 of them. Okay. Now, if you look at number 6 here, that's called chronic viral hepatitis. The issue is that there's something called acute viral hepatitis as well. And if you look at the slide just above that, it's called micronodular cirrhosis of the liver. Now, the issue is that cirrhosis is of both types. There's micronodular, macronodular, and then it can be combined micro and macronodular. So the issue is that even if you get the slide cirrhosis of the liver, I'll be able to teach you whether it is micronodular or macronodular, because the difference is very, very small and it is almost obvious, right? Then the easiest ones from here are actually number 1, fatty changes or steatosis of the liver. Number 2, jaundice, right? And number 4, massive necrosis of the liver. Now, why do I say this? I say this because in fatty changes and jaundice, you'll be able to make out what the actual histology of the liver is, right? Because the first step that I use in slide identification is to first try to find out what organ I am looking at, right? If I identify which organ I'm looking at, then I can go through the pathologies of that organ, right? Second step is after that is to look for various zones within that pathology slide to see which areas I can see that are obviously deformed or have some kind of interesting cells in them, or whether there is blood vessels or not, right? So based on that, I go to step number 3. I look at the same regions that I found interesting in the previous step, and then I go and look at it in greater detail, right? So I'll be going through those steps again, and I'll go through them again and again till you are satisfied. Okay. So I'm going to first go to the next slide here, which is normal liver histology. Now, on your screens, you'll see that normal liver histology is pretty simple. You look at this white space here, and this is your central vein, right? This entire structure that you see outlined in white, that is the hepatic lobule. So when you are looking up on this slide, I want you to look for, on any slide that you see in liver, right? First thing I want you to do is to try to identify it as the liver by looking for this hepatic lobule. And to confirm that this is the hepatic lobule, you will see that at the corner of each lobule, you'll have 3 or 4 white dots. That is your portal triad. It has a hepatic arteriole, hepatic ductule, and a hepatic venule, right? That's your portal triad in the corner. So when you look at a slide, I want you to first look for something that resembles a hexagon, right? A hexagon is a shape with 6 sides. And in that, I want you to look for the central hepatic lobule and then go into the, go and check this part and see if you can see these two structures. Now, the second step would be to look at these cells. Now, if you look here, these are all hepatocytes, right? Not only are they hepatocytes, but these white or light pink gaps that you see, those are sinusoids, right? So in the normal normal liver histology, you'll see that you have to look for 4 basic things. First is your hepatic lobule. Second is your central vein, right? Third is your portal triad. And fourth is if these cells are arranged properly or not. Okay, so I know that this is a normal liver histology, like liver slide, because I can see that there is a central vein here. I can see that there is like portal triads here, right? This is in a lobular shape. This lobular shape is separate from something else here, which is another lobule, right? I can see that there is an orientation to these hepatocytes, and the sinusoids are intact as well, because they are, I can look at them as clear streaks within the hepatic lobule, right? So now with that said, let's go to the first slide called steatosis of the liver. Now, steatosis of the liver is also called fatty changes. It is a subdivision of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right? Now, when you look at non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right, the name implies that there are liver changes and alcohol is not the cause. Okay, so in order to understand whether something is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or whether it is alcoholic fatty liver disease, you have to look at the patient's history, right? Second, usually what happens with steatosis is the steatosis is just one of the, it's like an initial form of fatty changes, right? After steatosis, you have steatohepatitis, which is there is inflammation of the liver itself. Now, in steatosis, you will not see any inflammation. Now, how is that important? That is important because if you look on this slide here onto the left, this is the slide that the university has given us, right? You can see that there are these white circles. Okay, these are fat droplets within the hepatocytes. And if you look more closely, you'll be able to see that the nucleus has been peripherally displaced. So in order to understand that, you need to go at a very high magnification and investigate these white droplets, right? Now, I know that this is the liver just by looking at it, because I can see that there are some liver cells here. These are hepatocytes. There is some normal liver orientation here. You can see that they're all arranged in this specific pattern, like this here. That is how I know that this is the liver, right? Now I know that this is steatosis because I can see that these are fat droplets. In all staining methods that we look at, right, there are only 2 things that will give us a blank white space. Number 1 is air. Number 2 is fat. That's it. Now, I know that this is not air simply because you don't have air bubbles that look like this, right? If this was the lung, for example, near the air bubbles, I would see thicker tissue because that would be the alveolar septa, right? But here I can see that this is just a single cell. There's just a cell wall around this here, for example, then around this. So I know that, okay, I know that there are some liver cells here. I know that there is some white spots here. So the white spots would indicate that this is fatty changes because there is fat accumulating, right? Now, there are only 2 diseases related to fatty changes in an organ. One is steatosis of the pancreas and steatosis of the liver. Now, the liver and pancreas are very distinct even in histology, right? So if you look at this, you'll see there are these small white dots everywhere. and that would tell you that this is fatty changes, right? Now, the droplets of fat displace the nuclei peripherally, meaning that the nucleus is being shifted to one corner. Okay. There might be something called Mallory-Denk bodies, but Mallory-Denk bodies on this slide cannot be seen. Now, what are Mallory-Denk bodies? Mallory-Denk bodies are like areas of pink coloration. They look like a bit like clouds, and you'll see them within the cell itself. So within these white spots, you might be able to see some Mallory-Denk bodies. Now, in both the slides, it is not there because we don't look at Mallory-Denk bodies in steatosis typically. We usually observe them when the steatosis has progressed to steatohepatitis, right? So when you look at fatty changes, this is how you understand it. Even this, for example, this slide is, this is a slide from an outside source. Now I know that this is fatty changes simply because I can see that there are a lot of white spaces here. I know that this area is relatively normal liver tissue. This is also relatively normal liver tissue, maybe a little disoriented, but that is fine. And here you have like, this is a particularly large area that has been torn apart simply because, remember that when you are looking at a slide also, some of the anomalies that you see is because the pathologist who was taking the slide maybe damaged the cells a little bit or damaged the tissue a little bit, right? So when you see something like this here, which really is nothing, like it does not conform to any kind of space, it just is an empty space, right? If this is an empty space, don't get confused that this should be the lungs or something. Sometimes slides get damaged, right? It's very basic. Now, let's go to a bigger and a clearer zoom of fatty changes of the liver. Now, what I have done is to go much deeper on the slide provided to us by the uni. And what I've also done is to boost the image. So you will get a lot of images, like when you go to the lab, you can click a lot of images, right, of the slides that you see. But I would insist that when you take the image, you try to increase its clarity, you try to increase the contrast and decrease the amount of light. So you can do that in any photo editing app, right? And that way you'll be able to see more clearly what you're looking at here. So for example, this, the black arrows will show you, those are the fat droplets within the hepatocytes, right? And here I can see that there is some damage to the portal vein. There's a portal triad is over here with some compressive damage, right? I can see some red blood cells and all that have come out. I can see them here too. I can see them here as well, right? So when you look at the liver, right, and you see that there are fatty droplets in the pathoanatomy exam, it will probably be steatosis of the liver. Now, here we cannot see any necrosis. Okay. So what is the cardinal rule of understanding necrosis? Necrosis on the slide will make, it'll be impossible to make out different types of cells. Everything looks more or less uniform when there is necrosis, right? Now, when we go to massive necrosis of the liver, which is I think slide number 4, there we'll be able to make out what necrosis actually looks like. Okay. Now we'll go to the next topic, jaundice. Okay. So what is jaundice? Jaundice or icterus of the liver is essentially when there is a lot of bilirubin being collected inside the body's tissues, right? Now, it can be of many different types. You can have unconjugated bilirubinemia or you can have conjugated bilirubinemia. But in order to differentiate those, you need to do clinical tests, right? You need to see what's the level of bile you can see in the blood, and then you can do an imaging test to see if there is any portal congestion, so on and so forth. But in order to understand this slide, I want to see what actually bile is. So when you look at bile, in jaundice, bile is basically the accumulation of bile in the Kupffer cells, hepatocytes, and the sinusoids of the liver tissue. Now, look at this part of the slide. Ignore this for a second. Look at this part on the left-hand side. Here you'll see that this is actually normal liver tissue, right? This has not been affected yet. Now, how do I know this is normal liver tissue? If you compare this with what we saw here, you'll see that this is basically the same arrangement. There are some cells here. There is some light pink areas, right? We go back here. And we see that is essentially the same thing. It is, these are the sinusoids are arranged in a linear or radial pattern. You have here the hepatocytes. You can see some Kupffer cells here, I think. And this is your fibrotic cord. So we know that the hepatic lobule, each lobule is separated from the other by collagen fibers, right? So when you have these fibers present here, what these things do is they will let you know that, okay, this is normal or not. Now, in some diseases, this fibrotic capsule part will become very thick as well. Now, that can happen in jaundice too, but then that's only if the jaundice has progressed without treatment. And that kind of slide is very difficult for us to obtain because the uni doesn't use it. Okay, so for the exam, when you look at the jaundice or the icterus of the liver, you suspect it because you'll see that there are these dark yellowish accumulations here. There is a slight tint to it. If you look at it very carefully, this side looks pink. This side, on the other hand, looks yellowish. So when you see this, remember that this here is jaundice of the liver. Okay. Now, you need to differentiate this with nutmeg liver, where there are fatty changes, necrosis, and peripheral congestions. In jaundice, these are intracellular accumulations. So you can't see any compressive changes here. You can't see any necrosis here, right? Because you can make out each cell here has its own outline. The cardinal rule of necrosis in a slide is that there is no cellular outline. Okay. Since there are no cellular outlines, there are cellular outlines here, I can say that there is no necrosis. I can only see that there is discoloration here, meaning there is only icterus of the liver. That's it. Okay. Now, here we are looking at something that is a little more, complex. This is chronic congestion of the liver, right? So the most common cause of chronic congestion is right hearted failure. Okay. If there is right heart failure, just think in your brain what right heart failure is. Right hearted failure is when the right ventricle cannot pump properly, right? The right atrium does not either fill properly, the right ventricle can't pump properly. So when there is that failure, it means that the blood that needs to go to the lungs for oxygenation is not being sent in an effective manner. And so if it is not sent in an effective manner, what happens is that all the blood that is coming in from the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava end up getting backlogged, right? So if, for example, you have two pipes entering, say, a cistern, right? And you block the cistern, what's going to happen is all that water is going to push back. That is what leads to, chronic congestion. So in chronic congestion, you'll see that there is the hepatic venules, and the hepatic venules are dilated, right, with centrilobular hemorrhagic necrosis of the hepatocytes. You'll see that the periphery shows fatty changes in the hepatocytes. Hepatocytes are just adjacent to the portal triad are normal, and later fibrosis may develop, and the condition is called cardiac cirrhosis, right? Now, this is what you look at in the slide. What is the most obvious thing that we can see here? The central vein is too large. Okay, I can make out that, okay, these are different hepatic lobules, but notice the most glaring change. There is a lot more white space here. Okay, there's a lot more white space. And this cells and this group of cells is the same. However, here is your portal triad. Okay, this is one of the portal triads, and here the cells are more or less normal. Now, move on to the right image. Is the same image, but in a greater, magnification. The central vein is heavily dilated, right? Even the covering of the central vein is thickened, because this is what is showing your congestion here. Then if you look at this, you'll see that the sinusoids are extremely expanded. Normally, they're not this expanded. Okay. Now, this part here, where my cursor is, that is your portal triad. Now, in one of the portal triads, you can see that the cells that are immediately close to the portal triad are more or less normal. You can make out that they are individual cells. The sinuses there are not really, dilated that much, but here they are. And not only are they dilated close to the central vein, they're also filled with something. This here is your extracellular fluid accumulation, and this is what chronic congestion looks like. Okay, now I want to, like in the previous slide, I said that you need to understand the difference between nutmeg liver and icterus, right? Now, look at this. In icterus, what has happened is that there is no changes to the cytological architecture, in the sense that the tissues are more or less normal. Okay, there's no dilation anywhere. There's no obvious signs of damage, no signs of fibrosis. It's just that it is in a different color. Whereas in the nutmeg liver, you can see that there is an obvious dilation here. Like there are many more white spaces than there should be. There is a lot of variation. So if I go to the left sided image, I can see that there are like white spaces close here, but then they are bordered by normal hepatocytes. Okay. And then I know that the central vein is extremely dilated and it is very thick as well. So that is how you differentiate between nutmeg liver and icterus. Okay, now this is the most important part. This is called massive necrosis of the liver. Now, massive necrosis of the liver is also called sometimes fulminant necrosis of the liver, right? So fulminant necrosis or fulminant hepatitis, the clue is in the name. Fulminant means it's a very old term for something that is explosive. Okay. Now, in these patients, what happens is that because there is, for some reason, there is very massive necrosis and it is rapid, it is almost explosive, right? Because it is explosive, what happens is that the patient deteriorates very rapidly and then they die also very quickly. Okay. Now, it can be caused due to a lot of things. It can be caused due to infections. It can be caused due to portal vein blockage. It could be because of cirrhosis. It is not always known what causes fulminant hepatitis, right? But most commonly, it is because it is a complication of acute viral hepatitis. Okay, so depending on the viral load, that is the amount of viruses that have entered the body, depending on the immune state of the body, right? It can either become acute viral hepatitis, okay, or that acute viral hepatitis can become chronic viral hepatitis, or that acute viral hepatitis can sometimes become massive necrosis or fulminant hepatitis. Okay, so let's look at this slide. Now, if you look at these structures in the center with the darker pink, these are normal hepatocytes. Now, one thing you must know about the liver is that it is a highly regenerative organ. It has a very good capacity for regeneration. For example, if I take a patient and remove 2/3 of their liver, within a few months, that entire liver will have regenerated back to normal, which is the reason why patients can give their left lobe in donations. When they donate the left lobe, it ensures that the liver can regenerate very quickly. Even in cases of trauma, like I know a couple of you were there for my trauma lecture as well in gunshots. Even if the liver is bisected due to a gunshot wound, like a shotgun wound or whatever, the regenerative capacity of the liver is very high. Now, that is a good thing and that is a bad thing. The good thing is that, okay, if there is a lot of damage, it can be expected to return to normalcy. The bad thing is it makes it very easy to form hepatocellular carcinoma, right? It makes it very easy for fibrosis to take place. So when you look at cirrhosis is when you look at the proportion of normal cells and abnormal cells, cirrhosis is essentially when there are many more abnormal cells and abnormal tissue than there is normal tissue, right? And this tissue is abnormal because it is attempting to regenerate itself. The liver is trying to regenerate itself and it is failing. Okay. So when you look at massive necrosis, the classical sign of necrosis is that you cannot differentiate. Okay. Now I know that this slide is all right to look at, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it to you on a separate software. I'm going to share that image now, and then we'll go progressively closer. So I'm going to do a new share now, and yeah. Yes. So this is fulminant viral hepatitis. Okay. When you look at this slide, as you will look at other slides also, remember one thing. Let's go through the stepwise process, like my slide identification algorithm. It is clear from this slide that trying to do step one, that is trying to establish which organ this is going to be very, very difficult, right? It's going to be very difficult because if you look at this, there is nothing here that resembles any known organ. It is almost impossible. And if you look at my cursor, you see these dark pink areas. Those are all areas of necrosis, right? This is an area of fibrosis. This light pink area of fibrosis. Light pink areas, all areas of fibrosis, right? This is one of the central veins. These are all central veins. And you can see that the central vein, instead of remaining circular, has become deformed because of compressive changes. Here is where you see fibrosis, right? Now, here I can see that this is something different as compared to the rest. So what I'm going to do is to go and zoom here, right? I go into as high zoom as possible, and I see this is the same thing as liver histology, because these are all distinct cells. And here you see the sinusoids. The sinusoids are arranged in straight lines. They are not crisscrossing each other. It is not a trabecular pattern. A trabecular pattern is when you have sharp intersecting lines, right? That can sometimes form a crisscross. Here, there is no crisscross per se. If I take this line and I go continuously, it will go separately to this line, for example, right? If you look very carefully, you'll see that each of these sinusoidal lines more or less end differently. And here you can see that these are the hepatocytes. They're filled with a lot of cytoplasm, and this here is the nucleus. Okay, this is your fibrotic capsule, right? This is the capsule that delimits your hepatic lobule, right? So I now know that, okay, this is liver tissue. Okay, this is liver tissue. That means that the rest of it is probably liver tissue as well. But what do I write in my report? You know, when I look at this slide, remember that when you are answering slides, first thing you need to do is to try to identify which organ it is. Second, try to identify which staining this is. Vast majority of the time, it will just be hematoxylin and eosin. Very few exceptions, like the periodic acid shift test, Van Giesen stain, right? I'll be covering various different stains and what they look like in a future lecture, because I'm trying to do this every week, depending on how much time I have. So now this is hematoxylin eosin, right? This is why it looks, you know, dark pink and light pink. Now here, if you look at this, these are some cells that are just, you know, dispersed. Now I don't know if these are not steatosis. Remember, they are just damaged cells. Here, for example, there may be some steatosis, but it is very difficult to make out, right? Now, if you look at all of these are all collapsed bile ducts, parts of various, you know, portal triads, right? They're all heavily damaged and they're all compressed and they're all filled with something. So when I go closer, you can see here that there is something filled inside this. This is probably because of the, you know, necrosis in its more or less one of the last stages. The lumens and all that are all filled, right? This is a lot of dead cell debris here. Then this is what fibrosis looks like. See, the issue with fibrosis is that fibrosis is when you have long, thin lines, right? And it is always very close to each other. Now, this here is not necrosis. This side is not necrosis. This may be necrosis, this may be necrosis, but this is not necrosis. Why? Because I can make out cellular outlines here, some of it, right? And then I can see that there's a lot of cellular damage also. Okay, now let me go up, right? And let's look at this part. This part is like, you know, intermediate pink. Yes. Now, this is what necrosis looks like. You see, and I'll tell you why it looks like necrosis is because I can't make out any nuclei here. There's one nuclei here, but then all of these are dead hepatocytes. They're not arranged in any particular manner. the cellular or the tissue architecture is lost. So I know for a fact that, okay, if they are not arranged in a proper way, the gaps between the sinuses and all that are blurred. There is some kind of debris present here. Then this is necrosis, right? I don't know which, if like there's only one cell I can see here that is separate. The others all look as if they are connected to each other in some way. If the cellular wall's boundary has been lost, then this is necrosis. Okay. Now let's go back. Yeah. So let's look at this again. This is what massive necrosis looks like. You have areas of necrosis, areas of fibrotic changes, right? All the central veins are badly damaged. I can't make out any separate hepatic lobules. If I can't make out any separate hepatic lobules, then I know for a fact that, okay, there has been massive changes in the cellular architecture or the tissue architecture of the liver here, right? Now, I want to see if this is actually the liver. Again, I look at these cells. I see that they are well organized, right? I can see that the cells are all separate. I can see the nuclei quite clearly. Then I know that, okay, this is the liver. Now, even here, look at this. You can see the various stages of necrosis in this part. On the left-hand side, these are normal cells. In the middle is where they start getting compressed. You can begin to see it getting blurred out a little bit. Then as you come around towards the right, I'm going to pull this up here. Yeah. So here is when you see that the number of cells and all that have gone down. I can't make out any nuclei, right? The sinuses and all that are all deformed because they're like either too wide at some places, too narrow at some places. There's no definite shape. Then I know that this is necrosis. Actually, if you look at this also, the necrosis is continuous essentially. You can see that this side is already necrotized. This side is beginning to necrotize. This side is beginning to necrotize, and this side is normal. So whenever you look at any slides, you can like be aware of the fact that even if there is normal cells at one part, there can be abnormal cells in another, right? Even in the same part that looks normal to you in one side will have abnormal continuous tissue. Okay. Oh, excuse me, just a minute. Okay. Now, let's go back to our slide. Yeah. Now that we've completed massive necrosis of the liver, let's go to micronodular cirrhosis. Now, micronodular cirrhosis is very interesting because this is what cirrhosis looks like. How do I know that this is cirrhosis? What is cirrhosis? Let's try to first ask ourselves what cirrhosis actually is. Cirrhosis is when there's a lot of fibrosis in the liver, in the sense that the fibrosis in the liver overtakes or outnumbers normal cells. That's when you have cirrhosis. Okay, so what is glaringly obvious in these two slides, if you look at the left-hand side, you'll see that there are these lighter patterns. They're like, the lighter lines here. I can see here that this is a hepatic nodule, right? Because I can see that there's a lighter pattern around it. Okay. I can see the same thing here as well. There is a line, there's another line, and this nodule is small. Now, remember back to slide number 1, normal liver histology. In normal liver histology, all hepatic nodules, if they are normal, are hexagonal. This is not a hexagon. These are all circles, right? So, if I look closely at the next image, you go to the right image here, and in the right image, you'll see the same thing. This looks more or less circular, right? And if I look at this slide, I know that these are small, right? These are smaller nodules. This is what micronodular cirrhosis looks like. In micronodular cirrhosis, the size of the nodules themselves are very, very small. They are less than 3 millimeters in size. That's your classification. If it is greater than 3 millimeters, then it becomes macronodular. Okay. How do you know that this is micro or macronodular? Just try to compare them to the nearest central vein. Okay. If this nodule, for example, is equal to or less than 5 times the size of a central vein, then this is micronodular. For it to be macronodular, this would have to be greater than 5 sides. So for example, if I look at this, like let's go to this page, this one. This is a circle. I can put 2 of these central veins in here. Now remember that you are only like macronodular cirrhosis is not asked on the pathoanatomy exam, but when you are writing, then you have to show that yes, there are 2 types of cirrhosis. One is micronodular type and one is macronodular type. In order to differentiate between the two, micronodular cirrhosis shows nodules that are smaller than 3 millimeters wide, and in macronodular they are greater than 3 millimeters wide. Okay, now you look at this thing. First, small nodular changes, which we've covered. You know, the nodules are very small. They are circular instead of it being hexagonal. Then there is bridging of fibrotic tissue in the portal region. Now, what does bridging mean? Bridging is when you have 2 portal triads that are being joined together, right? So let's try to imagine for a second what a hexagon looks like. At the corner of one of the hexagons, you have the portal triad, right? Now, imagine that there is a space between the two. There are 2 separate hexagons that are not supposed to be connected, right? And there is a line that joins these 2 corners together. That is what bridging is. Now, the greatest example of that kind of bridging would be somewhere here. So for example, this is probably a portal triad. This is, you know, the central vein. This line here should not exist, but this exists here. That's what fibrotic bridging means. In order to try to explain this a little better, I am going to again share my screen. I am going to see, okay, this is cirrhosis, alcoholic. Yeah, let's see. I'm just going to change my screen again and I will show you what bridging looks like. Yeah. So on your screens, what you see here is cirrhosis. Again, why? In cirrhosis, you can see that these fibrotic capsules are very large. There is a deformity of the usual hexagonal shape, except that there is one problem. This is not micronodular cirrhosis. This is macronodular cirrhosis, because look at the size of the nodules. They're huge, right? Let's go up here and you see they're quite huge. And this is an advanced case of cirrhosis because there are no central veins here at all. All the central veins have been utterly destroyed. You know, if I was to try to find one, I would try to see, yeah, maybe this one in the corner at the bottom, maybe it. Yeah, so this is a central vein. You can see here that it's been badly damaged. You know, it does not have a normal, well-defined limit. You can see it's like frayed sort of. Now let's compare this one of this to any one of these nodules. Now, how do I know this is macronodular? Like I told you, this is more than 5 times the size of the nearest central vein, right? This is macronodular, right? Let's now look at the other form of cirrhosis that I've got here on this slide. We are just going to let it load for a minute. Yeah, this is micronodular. Okay, now I want to show you what bridging looks like, so I'm going to have to go even deeper. This is what bridging looks like. Can you see here? So I'm going to trace the fibrotic capsule. This is a very thick fibrotic capsule. It comes around like this, and then there is a bridge here. This is your fibrotic bridge. This line that you see over here is a fibrotic bridge, right? You should not see this in a normal liver. So if you get a slide, you get something that looks a bit like this, and you look and just try to follow these thicker lines. If you see that this is not enclosing something hexagonal, immediately suspect cirrhosis, right? If you just say cirrhosis and you don't know whether it's micronodular or macronodular, just say cirrhosis first. That should get you somewhere, right? And you justify that this is cirrhosis because the nodules are circular instead of hexagonal. And second, there is evidence of massive amounts of bridging, right? Now, here's another thing that I want to show you. This white droplets that you see here, these are fatty changes, right? Now, this specimen is actually something called cirrhosis alcoholic liver disease. That means alcoholic liver disease has caused this form of cirrhosis. But here's what you can see. Within this nodule, you see there's a lot of fat droplets. So remember, back to the first slide, steatosis is actually just step one. Then you have steatohepatitis. Then you have steatohepatitis with fibrous changes. Then finally you have cirrhosis, right? So when you look at cirrhosis, you will often find that there is a lot of fatty changes as well, especially if it is fatty alcoholic liver disease with fatty changes. You will get this. And there is only one other type, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, in which only alcohol is the only differentiating factor. Otherwise, on the slide, they will look more or less the same. And in order to differentiate between those two, unfortunately, I can't tell you that, because you need to be a trained pathologist to do it, because you do a very specific type of test, and then you see if there are Mallory-Denk bodies or not. If those are present, then yes, then you say that, okay, this is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, after you correlate this with the patient history, right? So we are now clear with all this. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Yes. We've done micronodular cirrhosis of the liver. Here is another image that I showed you, which has the same principle. It's like a very highly magnified image. You can see here, this is what bridging looks like. This bridging should not exist. This is also extremely wide here. There's like a lot of fatty changes. And most importantly, this is circular, not hexagonal. So we come to the final two slides. Now, the reason why I have not put a slide here is because I want to show you viral hepatitis and hepatocellular carcinoma in this software that I use. It's called BioLucida Viewer. It's issued by the University of Iowa, and it is free for everybody to use. So I would suggest that if you have a laptop or a computer, download it, study from pathology outlines, and then look at the same slides again. Okay? Because it is not possible for all of us to have access to slides. This is a good alternate. That's all. So let's go to chronic viral hepatitis, right? For this, let's look at what's the information that we need to look at. Remember, chronic viral hepatitis is a consequence of acute viral hepatitis, which has not been treated, right? So here you will see the same thing. There is fibrosis with necrosis. There's portal vein bridging, like I explained previously. There is intralobular lesion and damage, portal tract lesions, and piecemeal necrosis. Okay? Now, what do all these terms mean? In order to understand this, let's go back to the slide. So, this is what viral hepatitis looks like. What is the most obvious thing you can see here? In chronic viral hepatitis, you cannot make out any of the fibrotic, you cannot make out any separate lobules. Why? Because there is fibrotic bridging. There's a lot of damage, right? Now, what I'm going to try to do is to try to find some level of, continuity here. The issue is that once I look at this slide, I can't see any normal cells at all, right? You know why that is? Is because this is chronic hepatitis, because hepatitis means inflammation. So if you have sustained inflammation, what is happening is that all the cells are either broken down by inflammatory mediators, right? You have tumor necrosis factor alpha, you have TNF beta, then you have TGF, IGF, so on and so forth. So what is happening here is that I can't find any area where there is any kind of normalcy. It is impossible, right? So what do? I go to these areas which have some kind of central veins. Now the problem here is that this central vein is completely damaged. This is damaged. This is damaged. So this looks more or less circular. So let's go down there. So I go down there. What do I see? The issue here is that if you look at normal liver histology, it will always come up darker, right? It is dark. That's it. It is dark. It is thick. It is filled with cytoplasm. Here it is light. You know why it is light? It is light because this cytoplasm is filled with inflammatory infiltrate instead. It is not filled with cytoplasmic fluid. Okay. Because of this will come up very light. Okay. Then I see here, there's a lot of like fat droplets, right? Then look at this region here. You'll see there are a lot of small blue dots. These blue dots are your neutrophils. So as I go closer and I go as much as I can, then you can see they are hardly any bigger than these red dots here, which are all the RBCs. This here is a fat cell. This is a fat cell. And here is some minor fibrotic changes, right? But let's look at each of these cells. These are all liver hepatocytes, but you can see that they don't have a fixed nucleus. You cannot make out the nucleus because this is what it looks like. This is necrosis, right? This is necrosis, and you can see that although the cellular outline is normal, which is fine, there is a lot of intracellular debris, right? Let's compare this cell to this cell. Here you can see there is the same thing, but then there is a nucleus here, and around the nucleus is debris. Okay, this means that either what has happened here is that there is a lot of viruses in here, right? And because it's a chronic infection, the body's immune system is continuously fighting it, right? In order to continuously fight it, sometimes what happens is that they will enter the cell and then they will constantly battle the viruses, but it may not lead to a complete dissolution. And so you can see here that there are various stages here of necrosis. So here's what you see. You have a nucleus, you have here a fixed amount of fluid, you have here some kind of damage here and here, right? This is viral hepatitis because of the simple reason that it is combined with two major factors. Number one, you cannot make out normal cells because it is acute, it is chronic viral hepatitis. All the hepatocytes have been damaged, right? Not only have the hepatocytes been damaged, there's also, these sinusoids are not normal here either. So when I go back up to the normal view, I look at this slide, I look and I try to find out, I have to see whether this is a liver or not. In order to look for the liver, try to look for one place where you can see that the cellular architecture is more or less normal. To measure whether cellular architecture is normal, try to look for the shape of the veins. It is not a cardinal rule, but it is a helpful rule if you look at the liver cells or you look at the veins and you see if the veins are either flattened or circular or whether they are frayed or not. When you go closer, like I've done here, then I can see that, yeah, okay, they're arranged the same way as liver cells would be. There is some sinusoids here, but each of these cells is infiltrated with something else. It could be a virus, it could be the lymphocytes, it could be the neutrophils, it could be eosinophilic bodies. So that is how this is. Now, the second thing that we are going to go to, which is final, is hepatocellular carcinoma. Now, for hepatocellular carcinoma, this is an important slide simply because it shows you when you have a carcinoma, right? It will prove to you two different things. First, that carcinomas have a certain growth pattern, right? They're not random. Unlike other types of diseases like steatosis, cirrhosis, and all that, carcinomas and sarcomas always have a cellular pattern, right? Now, while I wait for this to load, yeah. Now, on the right-hand side, what you see here, these are the normal cells. On the left-hand side is where you see abnormal cells. Okay. Now, this is hepatocellular carcinoma because it is showing two things. It is showing both cirrhosis as well as hepatocellular carcinoma. Now, why is it showing cirrhosis? Like I said, there are normal cells here, but the tissue itself is not normal. If you look carefully, this lighter pink area is encircling things that are not hexagonal. That's your uh, first indication that this is not a normal liver slide. Okay. So here, as I go closer, I realize that, okay, the cells are more or less normal, but in each cell, instead of there being only one nuclei, there are two nuclei. Here, see, they're all polynucleated, right? So polynuclei is where you can see bits of the tumor, right? This is multiple nuclei. Now, here is a region which has, necrosis. So look at this area, and you'll see that this is the tumor, right? This is the cirrhotic part of the tumor in the sense that there is, fibrotic bridging, but it is late stage. And then here you have total necrosis. Why do I say there's total necrosis? Is because these cells here do not have nuclei at all. It is impossible to make out whether they are part of the fibrotic growth or they are part of liver growth, because you can see that they are of two different colors, but there is no nuclei. If there is no nuclei, then it is very difficult to understand what kind of cell it is. And not just that, it is not, the shape is kind of weird. It is kind of, disproportionate. And the third thing is that you see this the fibrous capsule here. This in itself has hemorrhages, right? Now, in tumor pathology, remember that what happens in tumor pathology is that there is something called angiogenesis. Angiogenesis means that when a tumor grows, along with it, blood vessels will grow, right? So there is no need for a blood vessel in the middle of a fibrous capsule, right? But here you have this blood vessel. Here you have 3 or 4 blood vessels. It is right in the middle of something that is more or less continuous, right? Now you look at what I can see on the left is massive necrosis. This is what I call massive necrosis because there is a lot of damage, and all of this damage has left these cells completely atrophied. You look at this. This is swollen over here. These cells are not. Okay. So when I look upon this, when I look at this kind of slide, right? I look at there are some darker areas, there's some lighter areas. I go down and see, okay, I look at these cells. I realize that the fibrotic pattern is not around hexagons. They are very, wide. I can't see any portal triads here because the portal triads have either been destroyed. Because see here, if I don't know if you can make out, but that here is your portal triad damage. Okay. Because at this point, not only has it been damaged, it has also been phagocytosed and completely, like, there's necrosis at this point. Then I also see that each of these cells are very interesting in the sense that they don't have one nucleus, but they have 2 nuclei. Remember, if a hepatocyte has more than 2 nuclei, then it is hepatocellular carcinoma without fail. Okay. So with that, I'm just going to, revise what we've learned so far. We have gone from learning normal histology to understanding various types of diseases, right? There are 7 major types here, like the 7 major slides. Now, there is acute viral hepatitis. There's something called chronic myeloid leukemia of the liver and hemangioma of the liver. The reason why I have not covered those 3 slides is because they're not part of liver pathology per se. They're also part of cancer and neoplasm. So for neoplasms, the approach should be a little different. So when you look at liver pathology, when you get the slide, let's reiterate. Look at the normal histology. Look at the shape. Look at the presence of the central vein. Look at the hepatic lobule. Look at the portal triad. Look at the way the hepatocytes and the sinusoids are arranged. When that changes, you have pathology. In fatty acids or steatosis, you'll have accumulations here of fat. There is no fixed pattern of the lobule, right? Now we go closer, you'll see there is some, fat droplets within hepatocytes. The nuclei are peripherally displaced, all this fun stuff. When you go to jaundice, remember that in jaundice, that the liver cells are normal, except that some of them are discolored because they have cellular accumulation of bile. In some cases, you might see that the central vein or the portal triad might be compressed, but then that depends. It is highly variable and it depends on the type of jaundice you have. Remember that jaundice is a symptom. Jaundice is not the disease. Third, you have chronic congestion. Chronic congestion shows widened central vein. It shows widened sinusoids. It shows dilated hepatic venules. It also shows hemorrhagic necrosis of the hepatocytes, which you can see here, right? We also looked at this and we saw that, okay, the sinusoids, that many more sinusoids, more greatly spread, that happens only in chronic congestion. We compared this with massive necrosis, where you have some normal cells in the middle, but the rest of it is a mix of various levels of damage of hepatocytes. Okay. Then we went to micronodular cirrhosis, where we looked at the shape of the hepatic nodules, right? We also looked at whether, there are thin bridges of fibrotic tissue, which you can see here, right? We saw that all of these micronodules also had a lot of fatty changes, right? And the best way to define this is that there was a change in lobular architecture. Okay. Now, this is the same thing, but in a very high magnification. You can see that there is clear evidence of bridging here. Very thin line of fibrotic tissue that is connecting two fibrous growths, fatty acid, fat droplets within the hepatocytes. The hepatocytes are not arranged properly as they should, and the shape of the fibrous capsule is circular instead of hexagonal. Then we went to chronic viral hepatitis and hepatocellular carcinoma, in which we go here. So you have here cirrhosis, right? This is cirrhosis with hepatocellular carcinoma. So you have the carcinoma on one side and you have the cirrhosis on the other. Then you have here micronodular cirrhosis. Then here you have macronodular cirrhosis. Okay. So now I don't want to waste any more of your time. I will just try to unmute everyone. And then if you have any questions, you can ask them here. Okay. So all of you are unmuted. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. So I'm assuming that there are no more questions. If you have any other questions, you can send me a link, you can send me a message on Facebook and I'll try to answer it then. If you want this slide, the slide presentation that I made, what I'll do is to put it up either at my post, or it will be better if you just send me a message and I can send it to you directly, because it is impossible for me. I'll have to make a separate post in the group and all that so everybody sees it. So if you want the slide, just send me a PM on Facebook and I'll send it to you there. So with that, thank you for your patient listening. Next week, I'm going to try to do staining and trying to explain different types of stains. And I will also explain, I will try to explain benign tumors. Okay, and I'll do the same thing again. Go through all the slides, as many slides as possible. I'll post it on Facebook, Instagram, and in the AIMS Facebook group as well. So, thank you. And okay, so thank you and good evening. And okay, there is a question, I guess. Yeah, okay. Thank you, everybody. And it's so glad to see that all of you came. And with that, I'm going to let you go, get back to your lives. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Thank you for coming.